Welcome to my video explaining how my lifetime hourly averaging tax system, and it's also a benefit system, how it would work. And in this video I'm going to talk through some made up examples, and hopefully this will help you get used to thinking of taxation in this quite different way than the way that we're used to thinking about it. And I think people often learn well through examples, so hopefully this will really help. It's not that the system is particularly complicated. I don't think. If this is what we were used to, I don't think we have any problem with thinking about it this way. But because we're used to something different, I think it can be a bit counterintuitive to just think about things in a different kind of way. So I've got these four examples here, and this is a table taken from my book, Rethinking Taxation. And these are just illustrative. These are just some made up numbers that would be the sorts of tax rates and things that you might get if you put my proposal into being. So don't get too hung up on the exact numbers and try and work out the tax graph or anything like that, because I've not based it on a really thorough tax graph or anything. This is just illustrative examples here. So I've got four people, and they've got two main different characteristics. So one is that Angela and Bertrand, they are, for some reason, these are people in the first month of their career. Angela and Bertrand, they've got some sort of skill or talent or something that they've got, which means that they can earn 25 units of currency per hour. This could be pounds or dollars or euros. I'll just call them dollars for the purposes of this video. It doesn't matter because they're made up numbers anyway. Cassandra and Derek, on the other hand, they don't have this special skill, so they work, let's say they all work for the same company, and they are on the lower end of the pay scale, and they earn $6 per hour. So that's one big difference. Another big difference, and this doesn't apply to the same pairings, is that Angela and Cassandra, they really like to spend money, or they like to save money. So what they want to do is take advantage of all of the hours that their employer offers them to work. So it's a very flexible employer. They say you can do as much work as you want, up to 40 hours a week, let's say, and this is a month with 4 weeks in it, 4 work weeks. So they both do 160 hours. They take full advantage of this. Bertrand and Derek, on the other hand, they really value their leisure time. So maybe they're in a band together or something, and they're trying to have lots of practice and things like that. So all they want to do is work enough to just pay for their basic bills, so that they've got time to pursue their other interests. So in this society, you need 500 units, $500 to just pay your basic bills, and so that's what they do. They just earn enough to get up to this $500 level. So we've got two kind of hard workers in Angela and Cassandra, and we've got two leisure lovers in Bertrand and Derek. So in order to get to the $500, I should say Bertrand, in this system, Bertrand works 50 hours, Derek needs to work 84, because in an hourly tax system, the average is based on this number here, their hourly average earnings, taken from the gross income divided by the hour credits, which gives you this hourly average. And so there's a big difference between the two at the top and the two at the bottom. And that means that Cassandra and Derek, they're at the 0 tax point. Angela and Bertrand, they earn $25 an hour, which puts them in this 60% tax rate. So that's what you base the tax rate on. And this means that because Cassandra and Derek pay 0 tax on their earnings, their net hourly income is exactly the same as their gross hourly income. Okay, and then Angela and Bertrand, they are being taxed at 60%, so their net hourly income is $10. So to work out how much their net income should be right now, I mean, you don't even need to calculate anything for Cassandra and Derek because it's just exactly the same number because it's a 0 tax rate. But for Angela and Bertrand, I'm expressing this in terms of their net hourly income. Of course, I could have done it in terms of the amount of tax they've got to pay and then looked at it as a lifetime tax thing rather than the lifetime income thing. If you add the two together, you get their lifetime gross income, which is this column. So what you can do for Angela and Bertrand is multiply their number of hour credits by their net hourly rate, and this will give you their net income. And obviously you could do it that way for Cassandra as well, and Derek. It just so happens that you don't need to bother because they happen to be at 0, just conveniently. So that's how you would work out their what they should receive. Notice, of course, this is their first ever payment. This is their first month of work, and they get paid monthly, let's say. So you don't need to take account of any of their previous income at this point. So this is net lifetime income here that this then gives you. And so for the second month, let's say they just do the same thing again, then in the second month their hour credits would be doubled. Their gross hourly average would still be the same, their tax rates would be the same, their net hourly would be the same, but because their hour credits have doubled, obviously their gross income has doubled as well. So Angela, her net lifetime income at this point would be $3,200, and then you'd have to take account, well, Angela, last month she received $1,600, so this month, month 2, she's also going to get $1,600, and it will be the same for all of them. And then the third month, you would take off from the $4,800 that she should have received by the end of her third month. You take off the $3,200 she already has. So this month is different because it's the first ever one. You don't need to take anything off this one. So what this column here tells you, this is actually their income for this month. So it's slightly simpler than it will be for any other month, but it's not too difficult to just take account of how much they've received before. Okay, so let's just take a minute to think about the difference between how taxation works with hourly averaging. We've seen a bit of that already, but I want to flag up the difference between hourly averaging taxation and taxation based on gross income, because this is what taxation is usually based on. It's based on people's gross income. There's no reference to how many hours they've worked, so you can't work out a gross hourly average for them. So the tax rate is going to be based on just this first column alone. And then when we look at this, we notice that Angela, her earnings are much, much higher than the others. So let's say we've got a much more progressive society than any that I'm aware of right now when I'm recording this in 2020. And her tax rate is already 60% in this non-hourly tax system. So So hers will stay at 60%, and that stays the same. It doesn't seem that this society is going to be taxing Bertrand at 60%. His income is much lower than Angela's. So that's not going to be his tax rate. His income is actually quite similar to Cassandra's. So probably whatever Cassandra's tax rate is, let's say it's 10%, Bertrand's is going to be something a bit similar. But then think back and remember, Bertrand just wanted to get to $500 as his net income for the month. So actually, he's going to find that without the hourly taxation system, his tax rate is going to be a lot lower. So he doesn't actually need to work 50 hours because his pay rate is so high. He's not taxed on the hour anymore. So maybe if he's paying something like 10% in tax, then he won't do so many hours. So he won't actually earn as much gross because he doesn't need to earn so much to pay for the tax. So for him, maybe if he's got a 10% tax rate, he's still earning over $22.5 dollars per hour effectively. So he only maybe needs to earn something like 20. He only needs to do 20 hours there. So his income's going to be much lower, something like 550, let's say. Cassandra's obviously working the maximum number of hours, 160 anyway, but she's now getting taxed 10%. So her income is going to drop down, and that's going to be 860 something because she's getting taxed $96. So I'm just doing my best here with with this little mouse. And Derek, let's say he's exactly the same. He's still getting zero tax. So Derek's on still doing the same number of hours and still getting 504. So we can see some big differences here with the income that people will get and the taxes that they'll pay between the hourly system and the the system that we're used to, which is just based on income alone. And our system is just really much more favourable to Bertrand. Bertrand much prefers our system, and Cassandra doesn't do so well out of our system. So you can think about whether you're a Bertrand or a Cassandra or whoever, but I think that it would be much better for various reasons that I'll talk about in other videos to switch to this hourly system. And so in this video I'm just showing how it works differently. So hopefully you're starting to get used to seeing things in this kind of way. Let's just go back to the graphs that I showed you in the previous video where I talked about how this works in quite an abstract way. So we've got our tax rate graph. It's a bit small on this one, but this is where Cassandra and Derek are earning on the gross income axis, and that corresponds to 0% of tax for them. And on the other hand, you've got Angela and Bertrand, who are earning up here, and so they're it's not straight lines, but they're up at 60% when you do it on the hourly basis. So that's that one, and then let's look at the gross income and net income and how they interact. So Derek and Cassandra are here. They're at the point where their their net income actually equals their gross income, because they're at the zero tax point. People who earn less, they get theirs bumped up, remember, closer to everyone else's, and the people higher up, their hourly income is taxed more. So this is the hourly income rate for Cassandra and Derek is going to be here. Angela and Bertrand are way over here somewhere, but because of the curve we've got here, their net hourly income is much closer together between the two groups compared to the difference in their gross income. So what the system's doing is it's pushing together people's hourly net earnings compared to their gross earnings. So that's the effect of the system looked at in that way. Right, so let's vary the example a bit now, and we'll think about a situation where they all work for the same employer, as I think I mentioned, and for some reason this employer, they've had a really good month, and they've said, anyone who works here this month will give you all a $50 bonus. And so this just gets given to everyone, doesn't matter how many hours of work they've done. So let's just see what impact this has on the earnings for these four people when they're in an hourly averaging tax system. So what I've done is to remind you of what they'd had in the previous table. I've put here in unbolded their previous totals. So Angela, new Angela, she's got $50 more than the Angela that we were talking about last time. She's still worked the same number of hours, so that's the same, and her average then has gone up by 0.3125, and we'll just say, these are illustrative, so we'll say that her tax rate then is also going to go up, because her tax rate is based on this. So if this is higher, then the tax rate is also going to be a bit higher, and her hourly average now net will be, we'll say it's 10.05. And so when you multiply this by the number of hour credits, Angela gets $8 extra at the end of this month, because she's received a $50 bonus. So that might seem like she isn't getting very much, and this is a really evil tax system or something like that. But I'll talk about the difference that it makes, that this has come in right at the start of their careers. So this is an unusual situation, and I'll explain how it's a dynamic system, and it's a lifetime system. So this $50 is going to be in their tax calculation for the rest of their lives. Anyway, let's look at Bertrand now. He's also got the $50 extra, same number of hour credits. This has a really big difference on his average income. That's gone all the way up to $26 an hour now. So that means he's pushed into a much higher tax rate than he was before on 60, and so his new hourly income is going to be 10.000 something. I've not put that in there, so it's pretty much 10 still, but actually it's going to have to be very slightly more. And let's say this means that overall he gets an extra penny as a result of this $50 bonus. Okay, now Cassandra, same again, $50, same number of hours. So her hourly average has also gone up as well, and this means that her tax rate is very slightly higher, but she had a very low tax rate to begin with, and she gets $14.30 out of this $50 bonus. As I say, these are just kind of illustrative numbers. Maybe they're not that accurate, but for our purposes, they're absolutely fine. So Derek, he's got his 50. He's got the same number of hour credits. His has gone up more than Cassandra's. So, and that also means his tax rate's gone up a lot more than Cassandra's has as well. His has gone all the way up to 8%. And his hourly average is now 6.07. He doesn't have as many hour credits as Cassandra did, so he's getting an extra $6 out of this. So what we should see is that this $50 bonus, Angela and Cassandra get a lot more of it than Bertrand and Derek. And we can see why Bertrand and Derek get such different amounts by looking at the tax graph. So Bertrand is up here, sorry. Derek's down lower, and the rate of rise at Bertrand's point is much higher than the change that happens for Cassandra and Derek. So that's part of the difference, and the reason that Derek and Bertrand's isn't changing as much as Angela's and Cassandra's is because they don't have as many hour credits to divide this $50 bonus into. So it's having a much bigger impact on their lifetime averages than it is on Angela and Cassandra's. So the more hour credits you've got, the more any bonus you get is going to be divided by, and then the lower you'll be taxed on it effectively, the less impact it'll have on your average. So this is getting really messy now, isn't it? Hopefully this example is going a bit further to help you see how things work with this system. I'll just get rid of those, and let's think about the other graph that I showed you, which contrasted net income. This is their net income and their gross income per hour. Not too much difference for the four of them aren't split into pairs anymore. It's having a different effect on each of them, but still Derek and Cassandra are in this sort of area, and sorry, that's really not straight, and Angela and Bertrand are still up here somewhere, but now they're very slightly different from each other per hour. Okay, and I said that it has much more impact on them because they're right at the start of their career. And I also said that, well, I didn't say in this video, but in a previous video, maybe I mentioned that as time goes on, because this is a dynamic lifetime system, effectively what's going to happen is that if someone gets a bonus, a windfall, it's going to be released to them as they get more and more hour credits. And so what I've done, I've varied the situation here to look forward 8 years, and Angela and her friends here, they've just stayed in the same jobs and they've kept on doing the same thing that they were doing in their first month, and they've just been doing it for 8 years now. And so let's consider what difference this $50 bonus is making if they get it after 8 years. I've just said 8 years because that's roughly, I've times everything by 100 on the totals. So that was just to make my life easier. It's roughly 8 years. We'll just assume it is. So everything's times by 100 for the gross income, the hour credits, and in this instance, Angela's getting the $50 extra, and it's having much less of an impact on her gross hourly average than it did after in her first month. The $50 was pushing her average up to 25.3. Now it's 25.003. So when we see how that impacts on her lifetime hourly tax rate, rather than going up to 60.3, it's pretty much 60 still. It's 60.00 something. So her net hourly average is still 10, and it's maybe very, very slightly more than 10 now. The system should be really working to a lot of decimal points here. This should be a really really accurate system in this way to make sure that it's going to work when people have got loads and loads of hour credits and so on. So we're way into the decimals here. And so what Angela, much later in her career, she's pretty much getting $20 for this $50 bonus, which is her tax rate, 60%. So over time, this bonus is going to tend towards her getting her usual tax rate's worth. So people can just think like this. If you're in the system, you'll think, oh, if someone gives me $100 bonus, then I'll get 40 because I pay 60 in tax. So although everyone's got this really fine-grained tax rate that goes to however many decimal points, you know roughly what you're going to get. Once your tax rate settles down after a few years or something, depending how much your income varies and your situation varies, over time, extra little bits of income aren't going to have a big impact on your hourly average, and so they're not going to have a big impact on your tax rate. So they're not going to have a big impact on your net hourly average and your lifetime hourly tax amounts. So you'll just end up getting pretty much the percentage that you pay overall. Bertrand has got a lot fewer hour credits on his account than Angela, so it's having the $50 is still having more of an impact on his totals than it did on hers. So it's pushing up his tax rate a lot less than it did, but it's still pushing it up more than it did for Angela. So let's say he gets 18, 19 or something like that. Not quite as much as Angela does. I mean, Angela's probably going to get 19.99 or something, but it's not going to be quite as much for Bertrand. Even after 8 years, he'll get slightly less than Angela from that. And for Cassandra, she's got a lot of hour credits like Angela has, so really very little difference on her tax rate compared to if she hadn't got the bonus. So she's pretty much paying zero either way. So she gets pretty much all of this bonus. She gets $49 or maybe nearly $50 of the bonus. So she's getting a lot of the bonus because she's got a low tax rate. She's got a lot of hour credits. Derek Also got the low tax rate, but not so many hour credits. I haven't got the figures in brackets. This is just something I've added in as a reminder of what they had to show the difference with their tax rates. I couldn't fit that in for Derek, but you'll see. So he's getting 38. So that's more in line. At this point in time, he's got up to 38 compared to the 6 or 8 or whatever it was in the previous one. So what they're doing is, as they get more and more hour credits, what they get from their $50 is getting closer and closer to their tax rate, the more hour credits they get. So for these guys, it's pushing closer and closer up to getting all of it, because they have nearly 0% tax rate. But these guys up here, it's getting closer and closer to 20 as time goes on. The more hour credits that they get, sorry, not just time, but as time goes on, they get more hour credits. They keep getting them. So they're pushing closer and closer to this 20 number. So that shows you a bit how this is a dynamic system, and this would be the same if they got that $50 bonus at the very start, or if they got it right now. Their net income would be this much bigger. It would be 20 bigger for Angela, 18 bigger for Bertrand, 49 bigger for Cassandra, 38 bigger for Derek. It's just that as time goes on, your windfalls get much more averaged out by your hour credits. The more hour credits you've got, and they didn't have very many for their first month of work. So the difference that this $50 bonus is making to them at this point in time, it's hardly moving them on the tax graph at all. It's just a tiny amount different on this tax graph. So that I couldn't draw that finely enough. But, you can see how bad my lines are anyway. It's tiny, the difference is here as time goes on. So if they were given a bonus, they'll continue to benefit from it. We said, oh, they don't get very much to begin with. That seems wrong, but actually that's right, because as time goes on, it sort of gets released to them. So it's rewarding people the more hour credits that they get. This is giving more to Cassandra and Angela, but it means that if Bertrand wants to get more, he needs to do more hours, and the same for Derek, and then they'll get more of their bonus, as well as the more money that they get for working those extra hours. So the incentives are built into the system there. And I don't know if I need to now say about the difference on the gross and net axis here. Much less of a change in their hourly income on this. So these are some examples, and hopefully they're getting you used to thinking about things in this hourly averaging way. I hope that's a useful explainer, and do leave a comment or send me a message if you think that I could explain it better, or if you want to have a go at explaining it better and put up a rival, then you're welcome to do that, and I'll drop a link to that if you let me know. Also, let me know your thoughts. If you think I could maybe have simpler examples that would be easier to understand, just let me know. Let me know what you think. And yeah, thanks very much for listening to this, and I really hope it's been useful.